What's up, everybody? So we're back out in the shop with another daily vlog, and in this episode we are going to start the sheath build for the EDC Seax. Now, before we get into the sheath build, I did want to say that I took some of y'all's advice and did something with the handle. Now, a lot of y'all suggested that I do like a boiled linseed oil or a tung oil or something like that on it to darken it just a little bit and make those rings stand out more. I did that and it worked like a charm. You can see how much more pronounced the rings are from the actual end grain there. I really like how that turned out. It darkened the scales up a little bit, and I think it actually flows better with a knife than how it was before. So, really happy about that. Now, the way that we're going to do the sheath for this one is another leather over Kydex. So, like this sheath right here, we're going to do something similar to that. With this build, we're going to be using a few different things. So, for one, instead of black Kydex, we're using OD green, this Kydex right here. And we're going to be using this tan leather here. Now, this is just a remnant piece right here. I really like the actual tone that's on there, and if I go ahead and do my little four-way care stuff on that, or do like a beeswax or something, I think that this is just going to look absolutely awesome on here when it's all said and done. So, that is the color combo that we're going to be going with. I want to go ahead and focus on the Kydex part of this sheath in this episode because, well, we got to get the base for this sheath down. So that's what we're going to work on tonight, and we'll see how far we get into it, but we're at least going to be making the Kydex version of the sheath, and then tomorrow we might focus on getting it wrapped and all that stuff. So let's go ahead, let's jump into this, let's get this thing knocked out. So as always, we're going to start off by taping up our blade, building up 2 layers of tape to give us that space in between our blade and our Kydex so that we don't risk having the chance of the blade hitting the Kydex and basically tearing up the inside of the sheath, and on top of that putting little stuff in there and letting the blade rub up against it all the time and wear down the finish on the knife. I've said it plenty of times, there's a lot of people out there that think, well, if your sheath can scratch your knife, evidently your knife wasn't hard enough. That's not the thing. You're just basically scratching the finish. Not the knife itself, but maybe the polish that you put on the knife, or maybe the acid etch finish you put on the knife. That stuff can come off. It's not like it's a permanent thing on these blades. You know, scratches happen. If metal was impossible to scratch, well, we wouldn't be able to sand things with our 2x72s and all that now, would we? Now, you don't have to get super crazy with how you tape like the top or these little areas right here, or cutting super close to this. You're not going to see any of that in the actual sheath shape itself. What you're really trying to do is get the tape pushed down into those little plunge line areas and down into here, because that stuff right there is where it's going to form around and get real tight. So that's what you're looking for. We're going to do the second layer and then throw our Kydex into the oven and let it start heating up. I'm going to be heating up the oven till about 200 degrees and leaving it in there for just long enough for it to be pliable, which is really only, you know, a minute or so. It doesn't take long for that to heat up. There you go. There we go. See the definition of the whole blade there. That works. Now what we need to do is go ahead and mark where we want to cut and how we want our sheath designed. That's what we're going to do next. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and just mark the outline of the blade itself. If you've watched me do sheaths in other videos, you know that this is pretty much what I do on every single one. Get a rough idea of where the blade's at, and then I'll start designing my sheath based on that. Now for this particular one, it's going to be actually pretty simple. Nothing too complicated or anything like that. All I want to do is just make sure that I leave enough room above the blade here to be able to have an eyelet, which you're going to see basically this right here. So we can put that in that little spot. We know that we want to go about 1/8 of an inch past that. And I'll always go back and measure it and just make sure everything is perfect. This is just giving me a rough idea of where this is all going to line up. So I've got a rough outline for where I could go right there. But I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is just kind of figure out how this leather is going to fit here. And try and stay within that. So we got our design right there. Now, of course, I am going to end up smoothing out the corners a little bit so it's not super angled. But the goal now is go ahead and take my little eraser, erase everything else so I leave clean lines and I know exactly where I'm going to be cutting to, and then start marking where the eyelets are going to go. So now that I've got it, all cleaned up for where it's going to end up going, I'm going to go ahead and start marking where the eyelets are going to sit. And basically all I'm trying to do is make sure that wherever I cut the outside edge, I have an overhang here so that the eyelets have space before you get to the outside. The last thing you want to do is the eyelet to be all the way to here and accidentally wrap over the outside. It'll just look real awkward. So we can come in about 1/4 of an inch inside this line and we should be fine. then the goal now is to go through and mark a 1-inch line for where we're going to actually punch it. So the whole point behind it being 1 inch is most belt clips or ulti clips or different things that you use to be able to attach it to your belt. The ways that you would attach it to a sheath, almost all of them are 1-inch centers. So you want to go ahead and do that on these so that you can kind of put whatever clip you want on here. And I always come in away from this little area right here so that I can kind of adjust this retention with the heat gun. I'll never bring an eyelet all the way back here. I want this piece to kind of open a little bit as you pull the blade out. And what I'll do is I'll just take a little punch the center on all these, and then drill those out. I always drill the holes before I cut it, because let's say I go through and I drill these and it gets off just a little bit. I would rather be able to change this line than do anything else, because you know, you never know, a drill bit might move a little bit, walk on you a little bit, or all kinds of things can happen. I would rather cut this once I have all of my holes drilled so that I can make sure this outside line is even to all the holes. Alright guys, let's go ahead and wrap this daily vlog up here. We've got our Kydex part of this sheath completed. All we got to do is do a thumb ramp and adjust a little retention a little bit right here, but all in all, if I just put eyelets on this, put a ulti clip on it, this sheath would be a finished sheath. But we want to do a little bit of extra to it. You know, this would be a cool looking package, but I want to do the leather over it, and I think it's going to be absolutely awesome. So what we need to focus on in the next episode is getting the template put on here. So get the template cut out of paper, get that template transferred over to the leather, get it cut out, get the leather glued onto here, and once we have that done, it can dry overnight, and then on Saturday, we'll be able to wrap this build up. We'll have a completed package here. That is the goal. We're going to see how it turns out. I want to know, just in the comment section down below, do you think that these color combinations are, you know, cool? Do you think that you would do something else? I want to know. Let me know down in the comment section. Guys, that is the end of this one. If you would, give this video a thumbs up, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Y'all have an amazing day. Y'all stay safe out there, and I will see y'all tomorrow.